So today, this is like super exciting. It's like drum roll, people. Drum roll up and down the table. But let's not celebrate too much, because how many videos have I posted of this battle clay dragon where I'm like, we're gonna finish up this on the dragon, and we're gonna finish up the, and then we never do, because it just takes forever. Yeah, so I get it now. I get it. Why a lot of clay videos are in fast forward, or they truly condense down the time, because these things take a lot of time. But I can't, I'd totally be lying that I said I even regretted doing it, because man, have I learned a ton. And this is, you know, become one of my favorite things to do, is just taking our little armature and then creating something really cool with it. So this is as far as I got, and it's pretty much done except for some skin texture, because his body looks kind of naked, you know, other than the horns and stuff. But before we start, of course, we gotta say hi to our early arrivals. We got Frozen Mustache, and we have Dave back. So I believe Frozen Mustache, maybe Dave Wells as well. So we might have a double Dave situation. At least that's what your profile picture reminds me of. So anyways, we, you know, did a lot of horns and things like that, and I'll try and give you guys a better view with this camera. But before we do that and we start adding some texture, I went ahead and did the wings, and we did this together early on in the process. I'm like, let's just start practicing some texture. And we did the wings. The horns, we learned a lot in that it's much easier to bake the horns and then put them back on versus trying to sculpt each one individually. And then we decided to give it kind of a club tail with a whole bunch of stripes, and then I added a bit of a fin to it because I thought it would be, you know, it looked cool and stuff. So I'm gonna put him aside for a second, and we'll totally look at close-ups and things, and we're gonna just kind of mess around with some dragon skin textures. Now I want to keep this relatively easy, only because, you know, I would like to finish it this century. But not only that, one of the things I learned, and I'll show you guys when I give you the close-up, is that the part of the dragon that hugs the castle is pretty impossible to get to. Every time I tried to add texture or do anything back there, I'd smush something else. So we want to avoid that and keep the texture pretty simple. If he ends up having a bare belly or bare areas where I can't reach, we'll try and do it with paint, because after this is baked, we'll be able to take it off this structure and manipulate it a little bit, you know, way better. So I have a flat, smooth piece of, of clay right here, and I got me some tools. So I was gonna try and see kind of what mimics dragons better. Oh, Frozen Mustache is saying, ooh, you found me out. Yes, I did. Awesome. No, Dave Wells is awesome. And I forgot to mention last stream that I need to have like some kind of like comment of the stream award, because Dave Wells, I believe it was you who did the comment of the stream, where I'm sitting there trying to tighten a very hot object with my bare hands or a piece of cardboard. Meanwhile, there's like 50 pliers behind me, and it was either you or somebody else, but I think it was you who said, oh my God, use some pliers. And I'm like, I was just having one of those days. Sometimes you are like in the weeds with your project and you see nothing else in your shop. But yes, that was brilliant, brilliant. All right, so back at it here with our skin texture, and this foil is horrible, you know, for reflections and things like that. So I'm wondering if, just to help us out, I'll put a plastic bag kind of like here so you guys don't get so reflected away. Oh, and Dave, I think he's giving me the thumbs up, because that was him and that was hilarious. I'm like, oh, that's my dumb moment of the stream. Yeah, duh, use some pliers. Anyways, I don't know that helps all that much. But, so here I have a couple of these ball stylus tools, and this is the biggest one. And these each also have like see, that one's got a mini little ball and kind of a bigger ball there. So I figure if we just kind of poke the clay a lot, you know, and create kind of that rough skin, because I certainly am not going to sit there and draw out hundreds of scales. That's just going to add way too much time to this project. And the other thing that I know I use with foam a lot are these bristles, these wire brush type things. And I think this is probably a very easy way to add texture, maybe to areas that we can't reach with this guy. So just kind of testing him out over here. Like if we were to just poke the dragon like this, which is normally not a good thing. Normally you don't want to poke the dragon or poke the bear. But we can start seeing that it does create that dimply little skin. So this might be a way to go. And then I'm wondering if we just do a bunch of the big ball, the big balls in a similar manner. I think if we dimple up the skin, that might be a way to go. And then we can kind of switch to other sizes. Let me make sure I got all my sizes here. Maybe something not so aggressive. And see, we start creating kind of a dimply skin. And then switching to something, probably for the size of our dragon, I'm thinking something like this will work better over here. And I'm wondering if we can get off fancy pants and combine this dimpling with our wire brush. Like that. So we can have areas of very coarse skin, you know, kind of like knees and elbows and things like that. And then areas of more fine skin. And I think last time, get rid of this. This is the grocery bag I've been using to cover the dragon. But if I lift this to you guys, if you can get a better view, because I can see the shine is just pretty awful. And the out of focus is even worse. I don't know what's worse, the shine or the out of focus. So, oh, there we go. So you can see here where I've combined the ball stylus in the middle, and then as you move to outwards, you get the bristle brush. And then here in the middle is the big ball stylus. Now I think that is for the size of our dragon, I think that's too much. It's too aggressive. And then I'm liking also just the wire brush. It's kind of like a delicate type of, skin. So I think if we combine the smaller ball stylus with this bristle, like kind of like what we did here, I think we can get enough differentiation in the skin to make it just look interesting, and then we can take this bristle brush and where his belly is, we'll just, as best we can. So I'm going to move our test piece out of the way here and set up for our dragon cam here, our dragon close-up cam. And hopefully this time we're not going to be needing pliers or anything, because certainly I don't know where my own tools are. All right. That's why I love having you guys. Sometimes you guys get me out of the weeds. You rescue me from the weeds of the project. So I'm going to put all these here. Let me get this set up over here. Let's see. You guys will probably... I figure maybe we can start with the back, because that's probably going to be the easiest, and then we'll move on to much more difficult areas, and so the objective is maybe to, knowing how long these things take, do a little bit of each area, so that way you guys see kind of like what technique we ended up using for each of these areas, and then you can extrapolate what it would be, just taking it further and to keep going, because we all know how this go. You can easily spend 2 hours on just the back. We ain't gonna do that. And it's one of these projects that you can very easily just spend a ton of time doing. And being this, my first clay sculpture, I know so much more now than I did before. So it's like, oh man, I could totally redo this section. I could totally nail this section. But at the end of the day, at some point you have to be like, okay, time to call this thing quits. Otherwise it's the project that never ends. So let's see what we got here. You can see my little diva cam. Got some comments over there. And looks like we don't got any shop lights in the way. So I'm going to turn on my little light up here to combat some of the glare that we sometimes get. and you guys can see it's much sharper now. And plus the webcam is not as good as the other camera, so it kind of struggles with what am I supposed to be looking at? What am I supposed to be looking at? So you can see the wings. We did a ton of work to the wings. I added some tears, and we did that in the mesh way back when. Looking at its head, it does have that aluminum rod coming out of it to position the head the way we need to. And of course, we're going to be replacing this wood here with our actual wizard tower. So you can just kind of turn him around and see how, or I guess I'll turn him around for you and see all of the horns that we added. I added like little mini teeth right there, horns, a couple more horns are big horns. I keep calling them longhorns for the cows, but it's the bighorn cows. And I think I keep saying longhorns because of the restaurant, you know, the Longhorn Steakhouse. I added 3 rows of horns on the neck. Now, I don't recommend doing this. This was like, took a lot of time, especially reaching the ones here by the wing were really, really tough to do. But I am happy with the results, so I am glad I did it. And then I continued the row down the back and ended it a little bit on the tail. And here you can see we have our 2 fins of spines coming down, and you can see I kind of flared out, created, you know, a little bit of scales to give it more structure. And then down here we have our, you know, I guess it's the club. We call it like the club. And I added, you know, a little bit of flaps of skin just to kind of match up what we've been doing. Now, of course, I went to store this, and I guess I didn't, you know, put enough clay on it. This whole side fell off. So on the underneath side, when this is baked and we turn this thing around, we're definitely going to see some clay band-aids, you know, on the bottom here. But it's pretty, you know, and the tail is not going to be this detailed on the underside. I tried piling it on top of a bunch of wood so that way I could get underneath, but no, it's just not going to happen. So it looks like on this side here, see, we can kind of access the belly side of the dragon here. So we might be able to put some belly texture and then move on to kind of like our crepey texture. And Dave is saying, welcome to the club, dragon. Indeed. Oh, and the other thing I did, which you probably could see here, I added the little finger bones, and I used up our extra horns, which I have way ton more of horns here, just in case. But yes, he's got his little finger bones. And then what I'm gonna do is we're gonna bake this thing, and then I'm gonna trim this as close as I can to the dragon wing, and we'll just use a little bit of paint to disguise it, you know. So he's got all of his nails going on. He's pretty much done, except for, I mean, honestly, we could probably just leave him this way, but I would like to experiment with giving him some skin texture and kind of learn what that's all about. And let me just kind of raise you guys a little bit so you get a much better view. And, you know, pardon my whole, look at my stash there of PVC pipe and all this stuff for projects. And of course up here we got, you know, material handling. Oh, there's another camera there. Look, I see you guys. So there, that's kind of a little bit behind the scenes. And speaking of behind the scenes, we are definitely going to have a behind the scenes stream. I'm just grabbing all my tools here and leaving them handy. We are definitely going to have a behind the scenes stream before Monday because heck, we got to get that spider done. And I've made some progress, but with your help, I'm going to make some more progress. And, you know, it's a chill stream. We just hang out. I'm not going to use this ball stylus here. This one's too big. I'm going to move him out of the way. I think I'll start with the kind of medium size, like we said. And the idea is not to obliterate his musculature, but just add a little bit of, and I'm almost afraid to do that. I'm almost just kind of wanting to use this guy right here because he's gentle. And I'm afraid of obliterating a lot of this muscle detail that we put in. So we can always go back and use the ball on top of the bristles, you know, no issue there. So I'm just gonna, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And because the bristle is, if you can see, it's kind of a fan. See how it's thin on that side and thick on this side, or wide? So I twist it every time I poke, or nearly every time I poke, just kind of to give a couple more different dimples, so it's not always in the same pattern. And we can start this way because I think something like this won't obliterate our muscle pattern. And it gives it just enough detail that maybe stabbing with the balls, we might reserve that for something else. And we're also going to add some scales as well, just with our knife, just carving some scales into the tail just to make it look a little more gruesome. But I'm kind of liking the way the back is turning out. You can see it's more rough, like a real dragon. I was going to say dinosaur, but heck, you know, they're probably related. Wouldn't surprise me. And I'm just, I'm reaching around and giving you guys a hug. This base probably has so much clay at the bottom that it's just like rocking. But I was gonna get all fancy with the ball tool. I'm kind of liking this. And I'm trying to do it in a way where you guys don't get, you know, big old knuckle sandwiches like the last time. So I'm going to turn this around a little bit and hit up this area, which is kind of like, I spent a lot of time on giving him this giant, what is that? That's not, this is the bicep and this is the tricep down here. Shoulder muscle? I would just call it a shoulder muscle. I'm not a dragon doctor, so can't quote me on the dragon anatomy. So this is kind of nice because we are getting the texture without screwing up my muscles. I'm liking that. And we can even bring it into the wing a little bit, just to kind of blend it in. So the texture doesn't just kind of like stop, you know, in one area. And gotta remember to twist it. And so a couple things I learned, you know, as I do this, you know, I'll impart my Monday morning quarterbacking of my own self. So I'm gonna Monday morning quarterback myself right now. And that is, if I were doing this dragon in this pose where you got inaccessible areas, if I were to do this again without the LEDs, because really what screwed us up here is our little LED eyeballs. I am somewhat fearful of putting this in the oven multiple times. You can do clay multiple times in the oven, so you can build this in stages. And if I didn't have the LED eyes, that's probably the way I would have done it. I would have just built up the body just a little bit, like exactly like we did, bake it, and then do the wings, bake it, you know, because the wings, that way we can get rid of this right here and have all the access to down here. And we don't, because, you know, I did this all at once because I'm going to try and bake the whole thing. Now, one of the things that, you know, I learned is that he's got these cool 3 horns right here. And I added one on the other side, but in so doing, because I can't reach it, I kind of obliterated his face a little bit. So I had to re-sculpt it. It's back. He's back. Probably, you know, in my opinion, doesn't look as good as the original, but it's still, you know, I'm happy with it. So I'm moving on. So what I'm going to do is, he's only got 1 horn on the other side. We'll either just leave it, or we do have the air dry clay that dries in 24 hours. Now, of course, for a project like this, we wouldn't have been able to use the air dry clay, but that could be a very cool Band-Aid for, I don't know how this is going to work out when I put it in the oven. Is it going to, you know, are there chunks that are not fully mushed together? Are they going to fall off? Do they stick to the aluminum foil real well? Heck, I don't know. So we're going to find all that out. But sucker, I will glue you back together. You are not, you know, trying to get out of this project. Heck no. I'm going to glue you together. So I think he's already like looking pretty cool, you know, like with, he looks almost like a stone skin, you know, like gargoyle-y in a way. And I think I'm going to not use, you know, I was like, let me see how this looks. And then maybe I'll use the, ooh, let me hold this because look, he is wanting to lay on my bighorn. No, don't do that. I'm going to poke you over here. And you can see that, let's see, there we go. I got me some skin flaps here, some skin tears, and it wraps around. And so now we're getting into some tough areas. And the other reason why I would bake this as I go is because when I was doing this side of the wing here facing you guys, I was grabbing it from the other side here. So of course you're obliterating whatever detail you did anytime you need to hold the dragon. So the dragon is getting to a point now, like you see him shaking and stuff, because there's no good place to hold him anymore other than maybe like his belly area. But anywhere I'm gonna grab is going to not necessarily leave fingerprints. This is a very stiffer clay. They do make softer clays, but this is kind of the one I went with. It was readily available at the Michael's craft store. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go with this one. I would say that this is probably an economy, more economy type of clay, which is fine. Sometimes I like learning on not the super, super expensive clay because it's almost like when you play a Fender Stratocaster or some amazing guitar, you sometimes don't have to be all that great. You're going to sound great because the guitar has amazing tone, And it's almost like when you learn on a mediocre guitar or just a middle range guitar, that really teaches you to use your technique and develop technique, So sometimes I like to learn with something a little more economical to really learn how this stuff goes together. And then switch to another clay, or upgrade my guitar a little bit later on, because also in playing a guitar that is the, I would say the average run-of-the-mill guitar, you really learn about what features you really like, because sometimes the, super now-tow guitars and clay, have things that you just don't really need or perhaps will even get in your way. So I always recommend doing that. The very first tools I bought were very economical, just to kind of figure out what I liked. That way, the next time you upgrade, you can be like, oh, I really need these features. All right, so that is looking pretty good, people. Yeah, he's looking very dragony. And then I'm gonna go ahead and bake him and base coat him in black for us to do our paint job on him next week. So you get the idea here that I'm just, poking him around. But when we get down here, we get these kind of cool scales. And I'd like to kind of make these scales look more bony, if I can. So I'm going to move him over here where I can I think I can work on him like this. And then I'm going to move you guys, make you look down. Yeah, you're going to get a pillow or something because your neck's gonna be hurting looking down like this. And I know this is kind of like a weird view because I'm like, hey, I'm over here, behind all this stuff, but there's no real way to like see you guys and talk to you guys and be doing this at the same time. So for this, I would like to experiment maybe, I'm kind of over on this side here, seeing what I got. Maybe I got something like this. And for this, I'm gonna stand up a little bit so I can get a better angle. And so we have these cool kind of scales that I have going up and down the tail, and they're pretty smooth for now. So the idea, the original idea, we'll see if this works, is to carve some like stripes in them to make them look more like bony plates. And then I'll blend the stripes with maybe our ball tool here, which will then fade into the pokey bristles. Now, I am very tempted to carve scales into this thing. I think that would look super awesome, but the problem is, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. I can probably get back here. Anyways, we can think about it. I don't know, you guys want me to attempt scales or not on its belly? You know how snakes have those big longitudinal type scales? I was going to try and do that all the way down the tail. This being the spine, this being the belly of the tail, and this being the side of the tail here. So, Dave Beck I was making all the guitar references, but he's like, heck, hit closer to home, a Stradivarius, the violin. Yes, you don't want to hear the first violin I played. It was just like whatever, cheapest one. So, all right, I've been procrastinating. So I'm going to try and who's my victim? They're all like fleeing for dear life. Like, please don't let her touch us. She's just going to ruin us. So I can already see this is going to be somewhat challenging. I'm taking a smaller blade here and seeing if I can, this, you know, thing is in the way here, if I can do this. But I think if we add in some stripes, he might look kind of cool. And this clay here I did this morning, so it's still pretty soft. The problem is, like, when you leave this particular brand of clay on, and then you come the next day, it's already kind of hard. It's very difficult to blend you can blend new clay because the new clay is soft, but it's very difficult to say fix something without just having to pull the clay off. You know, if you notice, there's a hump right here of clay. Like, it gets thin where this finger is, then it gets kind of fat here and then thin. Would I love to smooth that out? Heck yeah. But it's going to end up ripping more than anything else. And I'm chicken. I'm kind of chicken. I'm going to stay away from it and just leave it fat, you know. Maybe he's like a snake and, you know, he's eaten some prey and it's stuck there, which makes no anatomy sense is what I'm trying to say. No, that's not right. Anatomy. Yeah, I don't know what that word would be, but you all know what I'm trying to say. Doesn't make anatomy sense. So here I am making like little, you know, rips and stuff or breaks in these scales. And I'm not going nuts, maybe just 1 or 2 per scale. And I'm gonna have to go like this now. And it's funny, when I did the horns in the oven, I'm not gonna lie, they kind of stink. And they stink like PVC, or what I suspect PVC would stink like. So part of me is like, oh man, I would have put this thing on our wizard tower already, you know, and bake them on the wizard tower and just kind of support the PVC somehow so it doesn't melt or get, you know, gross or tilty. Starts to tilt. Oh, I'm sorry, I hit your foot. So you can see, I think it looks better this way. It looks more like plates, these guys, which was the idea. Let's kind of break them up a little bit so they don't look like wads of clay that I just kind of locked in there. All right, and so to blend them, and I'm gonna crane your guys' neck just a little bit more. Get a pillow. Whoa, whoa, camera. Let me give it an extra foot on top. There we go. Oh, David, I think, yeah, anatomical. Yeah, and it's not anatomically correct. That's what I was trying to say. Perfect with the spelling. I was like, it's not coming out. It was in my head, but it just wasn't making its way to my mouth. And we have like little foam pieces on the table. That's what I'm digging out of this thing. Oh, and it would probably help if I put my eyeballs on. Let me put my eyeballs on. And get this nicely all cut up. All right, so here I wanted to try like the little ball tool, and maybe we'll go with this guy to blend these scales in, and then we'll fade to the other one. You can see how this stuff takes forever. Although we did rock through the body way faster. You notice how I'm strategically avoiding the head, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm like, oh, maybe we'll run out of time and we won't have to do it. Nope. So because the tail is so smooth, and I didn't really do any muscles on it because the muscles on a tail are just so simple. This is smooth, so we can go in with like the ball stylus a little heavier and not worry about obliterating details or musculature or anything like that. And it's so funny because watching these videos, or when you see a sculpture in a store or a resin sculpture, you know, those are cast or molded, you know, you're like, wow, how, you know, it's so detailed. And I haven't learned everything about sculpting, but just these simple techniques, how much detail that you can add to your piece with a couple simple things, you know, like if with horns, I was thinking, you know what I could have done? Toothpicks. I could have broken off toothpicks and we can paint them and put them in. Although I do like kind of the irregularity that you get when you do make them by hand. But for someone just starting out, heck, toothpicks would have worked just fine. This tail will be looking mighty fine. And when we paint this and dry brush over it with a lighter color, it's going to pick up all the little raised edges of, you know, the little dimples we're creating. So he's all dimply. And right about here, I think I'm going to start to transition to, and I'm like careful where I'm putting this hand, because what you see here, not really what's going on here, but these spikes here, I don't want to smush them. So I'm just kind of using this as a support here. And this clay for the tail is old clay. So it is like hard, people. I'm having to stab this thing to get any type of texture. And so we have the transition of very rough skin because it's on his back to the very kind of softer little dimples. And we can always add, you know, our large scales on top of this if we decide. But I'm kind of not tempting fate on this one. I've already smushed enough parts and had to kind of redo them. And when we get to the painting, we're going to notice a lot of areas that are smooth, you know, just because they're not accessible at all. Let me move this guy into your guys' view, and you can see here kind of the transition from rough to, you know, almost smooth on the other side. And I'll lean you guys in for that. It's kind of tough to see the, you know, the stomach side of the tail. And Dave is ordering dragon skin boots on Amazon. He's liking the dimples. It's like, I'll wear me those dimples. I guess snakeskin boots would be the closest thing. I remember when I went to Nashville long time ago, they had a very cool boot store on their main road, you know, that main kind of touristy road that has a lot of bars and music and country music and real bands, you know, not DJs. And we got a lot of DJs here, you know, near Philly. If you go downtown, it's mostly DJs, but we do find some restaurants that have good bands, but I haven't been in a while, so hopefully we can all get back to that. And here we go, we're working our way to his padonkadonk. And as we do, I'll probably transition to the other, to our bristles, so we don't obliterate his padonkadonk. Which was very tough because it just kept falling off. I don't know if you guys remember putting the aluminum foil. He just kept shedding it off. Like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna have that kind of butt. I want a slim butt. I was trying to give him like a Kim Kardashian dragon butt, but he was not having it. I was like, it's much more ferocious that way. And no, he vetoed it. But I was able to build it up again with some clay. All right, so guys, then it's looking pretty scaly. Yeah. And you can create a lot of these effects, I was thinking, with household items like toothpicks and craft knives and all that. Although these modeling clay tools are not very expensive. You can get a whole kit for not much on Amazon or even just at the craft store. So we'll see when we bake this thing. I hope that, my scenes are all good enough. We'll see. But it seems like clay is very sticky. It pretty much sticks to just about anything. So you should be good. And I'm just now kind of using the bristle where we use the ball tool, just at the seam, so that way one style kind of flows into another style. So it's not just harsh like break between ball tool here and bristle brush over here. No touchy. No, this is the one time they can touchy. Not like our wires. So I'm very curious to know if these LEDs are going to work after we cook them. But luckily, Dave... Oh, I am hitting my wing with you guys. You guys put a dent in my wing, but that's okay. I fixed it. Just there. All right. So same thing with this tail. It'd be nice to be able to bring you guys closer like that and add some details to these. This looks like a pineapple. these scales here. After I did it, I'm like, this is looking a little bit like a pineapple. But we'll take it. We'll take it. I am just looking for the other craft knife. This little guy here seemed to have done the job. And this would be easier if I were on the other side of the table. I'm going to try and sneak in here without obliterating your view here and add some kind of scale-like textures. And all I'm doing is cutting into it. Doing a deep cut and then making it more shallow. And then some of them I'm not even pulling all the way. I'd use the overhead camera, but all you're gonna see is a whole bunch of knuckle. Not much going on. But guys, I can't believe we're getting to the end of this thing. I started this, I thought it would be a cool, quick project. I was like, yes, we can add a cool looking battle dragon. We'll figure out the whole wizard situation. But alas, I now know why these things take so long. And also, it could have taken shorter. We could have done a very simple, just plain, no details dragon, just for the fun of it, just to see if it works and had all that fun. But I figured, if we're taking the time and we're doing it, let's just try and get the most we can out of it. And then with this skin, it's looking rather simple. So I'm wondering if I can just add some skin textures like that. I need a camera I can wear on my head. So I'm wondering... Oh, that's not better. That's worse. So all I'm doing is very lightly, just scoring the edge of the clay with lines, just to make it look like almost similar to the skin that we have going on the wings. And I'm not going to do the underside, unfortunately, although that's really not going to be seen. It's either going to be hugging the castle or facing downwards. And we are going to have to add some kind of base support here eventually for our lamp, because this dragon is just going to tip the whole lamp over. This thing's heavy. But not the worst. Definitely not the worst. So you can see there a couple, a little faint, but a couple lines. We don't have to go super deep because it doesn't take much for the dry brushing of the paint to pick this up. I don't think so. You know, I think we'll be able to get some really cool effects with some dry brush colors. Which brings me to, what color do you want this thing to be? You know, do you want it to be more natural, like grays, browns, and blacks? We can add touches of red. We can, you know, add some kind of cool colors. We can make it all red. We can add a little bit of gray blue, you know, to it, kind of keep them, you know, more natural looking. There's a whole bunch we can do. So here's, you know, I went ahead and went all the way around and got our tail going, and that's pretty much done. I added a couple cracks here in these, you know, they kind of look like eggs there for a bit. So, or, you know, some kind of pineapple. So I went ahead and added some cracks to them to make them look more scale-like. And I'm going to bring you guys down even more. Your neck's going to be craning in the morning. And there you got a nice foot for support. But on here, you should see that, yeah, you know, I added a couple rips, you know, or just some cuts into these to make them look more scale-like. We have some striations going on in the, I guess, wing material, you know, of the tail. And we have texture now going all the way up his tail. And there's, you know, a couple areas I need to hit, you know, back here that are a little bit tough to get to. Let me bring you guys up a little bit. Bring them more accessible to me and back you guys on out. So we have our texture there. We still need to texturize his leg, and we've already done his back there, you know, and then we got to texturize this other leg. But the leg is going to be texturized exactly like how his back is texturized. I'm just going to go for it with, you know, our little bristle brush. So one of the things we can do, I think it'll be tough for you guys to see the foot. I'm trying to pick angles where you guys have the best view. Let's see here. We could try his head right here. And for this, I gotta make you guys uncrane your neck a little bit. And I'm gonna bring him a little bit closer to me. Doing a little bit of shifteroo going on here. All right, but if Dave buys his dragon boots, oh, you are so posting that on Discord. I want to see your dragon skin boots on there if you end up buying them. So for our longhorn, there I go again with the restaurant, our bighorn, I went ahead and added some wrinkles to the skin that holds it, you know, just to make it look a little bit, you know, more natural. So it's not just something poking out of his poor head. And then here I have more of these scales kind of going on. And on the eye area, I just wanted to add, you know, some expressive lines. You know, I'm going to give him some crow's feet. People don't usually like crow's feet, but I don't mind them. It tells the world you've seen a couple things. And trust me, we all know people that aren't here anymore that would love to have some crow's feet. It means you were lucky enough to still be here. So rock them wrinkles, rock them crow's feet. Nothing to be ashamed about, dragon. Here we go. And so with him, I'm just creating some wrinkles on his skin with this, you know, rather than poking him, you know, maybe his head can be slightly more smooth than the rest of his body. And here I'm going to come down, and I think this blade is getting a tiny bit blunt. I'm just kind of carving out his eye a little bit better. And then here he's got his, I guess this is his cheek muscle. So I'm just creating a lot of little crepey lines, like grandma's hands. That way we don't lose the expression and the whole dragon doesn't get boring. You know, if we were just to use the same skin texture style on the entire dragon, it gets kind of boring. So this is something a little bit different, and it's tough to see until we paint it. Then all of a sudden these little details are going to show up because the black clay is just, you know, so dark. It's kind of tough to see. And here I created kind of a furrowed type of nose situation. But he's rocking his little wrinkles. His little dry skin. I guess they have all kinds of dragons. Desert dragons, forest dragons. There we go. So he went from being totally smooth to having wrinkles on his head. And let's see, because I'm standing up now, I'm going to move him a bit. And Dave is saying there is a longhorn cow. Bighorn and longhorn are interchangeable in Texas. Awesome. So I was not calling him the wrong thing. Look at how his nose has no support. I did not put a rod or anything where his nose or mouth was going to be because I didn't know how, you know, how much I was going to open him. I probably should have done that. So yeah, I learned a lot of things. If it weren't for the LEDs, I would definitely have done this in phases. And I'm going to wrap my hand around and create a couple breaks in these kind of plates that I created here. And for you guys to see, let me ET phone home you guys. I'm going to grow your neck and bring you a little bit closer. Well, you can see the top of his head. There we go. Now, despite this dragon's facial appearance, he's looking for some happy little friends. So we're going to give him a happy little wizard friend. We'll see how they get along. But the idea is to take that aluminum rod that's supporting the neck of this dragon and actually use it to support our wizard off the floor. So we're going to run LEDs down that rod, and they're going to go from like orange flickering, you know, like fire, to blue flickering. And for our wizard, yeah, so it's going to go from orange to blue because the two energies, you know, the fire and the magic, come together in the middle in a big explosion. But that rod will continue through that all the way to the magician or the wizard, and it's going to support him off the ground. So it's going to make it look like he is floating. So that's a cool effect that I'm looking forward to trying out and see if we can actually make that work. Worst case scenario is we use a couple clear, very thin acrylic rods to hold our guy up, our little wizard. But I'm thinking he's got enough wizardry in him that he can tame this dragon, and the dragon can, you know, this dragon aluminum piece of armature can support everybody. So here we have more dragon wrinkles, and he's looking way more fierce now with these wrinkles. So I'm liking it. He's got the resting bitch face. Yeah, that's good. We want that in a dragon. So I'm going to DET phone home you guys. Whoop, you guys don't fall into my dragon. And I'm just going to get you guys kind of settled here. And there we go. So now you guys are a little bit lower, but get you guys over here. There's our nicely wrinkled dragon. He's all wrinkly. And now with the light on it, I see some mistakes. Let me go like that. There we go. So he's got a lot of wrinkles in him. He's looking pretty good. And then now that looks really bad. Look, that's all smooth. So I'm wondering, probably where these are, we'll do the same. I'm going to go ahead and try and sneak my hand up on in there. Sneaky sneak. And somehow add a couple tears into these. And this clay is like really hard because I did it a couple days ago. So different brand clays will stay, not that it's hard, meaning like you can still sculpt it, but it's a lot easier for this type of clay if you need it. If you need it, it softens it up and then you can create your shapes a lot easier. But once you put it on the dragon and you don't touch it for a while, it becomes like room temperature or whatever the garage is. It kind of hardens back up to its like pre-sale, like as it was sitting in the packaging at the store type of hardness. And then for that, it can be a little bit tough because it doesn't blend well. Like if you find you made a mistake, the easiest thing to do is actually to remove the clay, re-knead it, and put it back again. And I don't know if that's even a word, to re-knead some clay, but I'm going to use it as a word. I'll let Dave add it to the dictionary of Rachel's weird words. Rachel's made up words. So I'm just adding a couple cracks here, making it look more realistic. There we go. Now I won't be able to do it on the other side, but we always have the option of using that air dry clay for any mistakes and whoopses that we need to solve. So I'm going to go in with the ball tool here and create just like what we did with the tail, and then on its neck we'll use the pokey wire brush on it, because as much as I would love to put some long scales, it's going to be kind of tough with all this going on and being so limited by the space we have. So to support it, I'm just going to go here and hold by the bottom of its neck where I know, ooh, it's turning around. Don't turn around. It's like wanting to look at you guys. And the dragon is like, Dave Wells, Dave Beck, save me. She's gonna mess me up. Y'all know she is. Don't let her do it. Yeah, this is like the point of no return. This is the point of no return. It's getting all dimply. Whoop. But the idea is to put him in the oven tomorrow where I can watch him. And you bake it at 275 for every 1/4 inch of clay you have. Now, we do have a couple different thicknesses of clay, but nothing that really exceeds even a 1/4 inch, I don't think. So we should be good, but I always bake it a little bit longer. I don't think you can over bake the clay, but what you can do is bake it at too high a temperature. And in that case, you can get some kind of burny looking clay, or it changes colors a bit. And this is especially important, say you're making jewelry and you're using the natural color of the clay. Well, you don't want that to happen. Now with me, if we over bake a little bit and the clay kind of, the white changes to a little bit of yellow, I'm not going to care too much, because we are going to paint this. Even the horns are going to get painted, because we want to add some cool striations and make it look a lot more realistic. And the painting will probably end up, oh, you guys can't see anything, can you? As I was sitting there jabbing it. I'll do it sideways. Takes a little longer, but that's good. So his neck is getting all neckified. Neckify his neck. But this ball tool is the bomb. It like gave us quick dragon skin without us fretting too much. And then I still have to do the bottom of his jaw. But you guys saw how I did his facial skin. So the bottom jaw is going to be in a very similar manner. I figure if we like sprinkle some texture like a fairy as we go. Oh, I wanted to add horns going all the way down his neck, but then I was like, wait a minute, I can't reach the other side. So I'm going to use the air dry clay to add this guy and this guy to the other side. And I figured I shouldn't push my luck past that. I probably shouldn't. Oh, I smushed his little arm. And that's how easy it is to do it. Smush the arm. Let me retexturize his arm. Yeah, that's the thing. It just gets tougher and tougher. But if we were to have baked some of this, like baked this, it wouldn't have mattered. Then you can just touch him and do whatever. Abuse him. But when he's one piece, gotta be careful. And Dave is saying maybe dark brown with warning red highlights. Ooh, I like that. Can do some warning red highlights. He's got some cool fins that we can work with. To look for some dragon pictures with a similar pattern that we can kind of use as a guide. If you guys find anything, definitely post it up on, what is it? Discord for me. I'm all concentrating. Ooh, not my big horn, long horn. I'm gonna call it both ways now, since I figured I'm allowed. So going down his neck, he is looking good, people. He is looking ready for a fight. Do it in a way that is not going to get my poor arm. Put a lot of time into that arm. Give it all the little beefy Arnold Schwarzenegger muscles. So every time that the wizard defeats him, he's like, I'll be back. Hence the red LED eyes. He is all ready to take on Skynet. Wizards and Skynet. He's got it covered. All right, I'm gonna have to get creative to be getting in here, but I'll do it. There we go. I'll do kind of what you guys can see, and then I will tackle the rest. I didn't do his armpit real well. His armpit needs some texture. There we go. Yeah, I definitely think the balls would be way too obliterating on his muscles. I think that, but the ball effect is really cool for a very rough looking skin that leads up to the spikes, because you know where all the action happens here, you know, so you want really tough skin where that happens. But I'm kind of afraid to put any of the ball on the back and on the feet. But we got some nice balls going on down there. Oh, the way we describe these things, right? There's just no other, no better way. So now that we have, some good skin tone going on, let's see here. Oh, his poor tooth. It's getting hit by the thing. But I'm going to leave it. Just leave it. Real careful. Guys, I think like this took way less time than I thought. I mean, there's some area here in his neck that we can do, and we should probably ballify it as well. I'm just going through my tools here. And am I missing a ball tool? Yes, here it is. These all start looking the same after a while. So I'm going to try and get in there. Yeah, that's not going to work. We're just going to maybe leave that as is and maybe use a little bit of, I'm like trying to do this. Oh no, little horn. Very carefully, just kind of poke them. Just to kind of give it a little bit of texture. And as I do this, guys, I'm so noticing some seams that I didn't seam together real well. But this texture is totally hiding it. No one will ever know except just us. They'll be like, oh, it's perfectly seamed. I'm like, yes. There we go. Maybe that's what everyone does. And I'm just thinking I'm super unique. No, everyone hides their seams. All right. So we got a couple ideas for the paint job. We got red, you know, with some red accents. I think that would look pretty cool. And let's see, where is our ball? This is like the first stream with this dragon where like we've made faster progress than I thought we would. Every other stream has been like, oh, we can knock out these horns in no time. Nope. No, we can't. I mean, I might do a couple. Let me bring this closer to you guys. Like a couple ball tool just on the main muscles here on the leg before we get to the very detailed part. And then just blend it out. But the rest is done. Like the wings are done. I have a little bit, you know, just the bottom jaw of his face. I'm going to try and get inside the dragon as much as possible. But there's like no way you guys are going to be able to see that. So I'll just kind of knock that out tomorrow morning. And then get this guy in the oven. Oh, guys, so exciting. And then we're done. Then there's no turning back. It's like, you're done. You're done, dragon. And we'll paint him, and then the next step will be attaching him to the castle. Now, it does occur to me that as I've worked on him, he has changed position a little bit. So is he going to fit like perfect? Probably not. But there's things we can do, like build the castle out to him, put a couple of structural changes in the castle. Like if one of the huts is in the way, well, heck, that thing is hot glued in. We can always change the position of the hut. I think we'll be fine. I think we can get creative with how we'll go about this. Because that's kind of like what happens as we build, we come up with ideas. Like if we knew ahead of time, these are all the components that are going to be in the build, well, you know, we would have built things in a different order. But sometimes we start something and you guys, of course, are going to have some awesome ideas to add. And of course, I'm going to have to add them because they're so awesome. Like this dragon idea, the dragon and wizard idea. I was like, yeah, I'm going to steal that. We're just going to have to do that. This project originally was going to be make a cool plasma lamp, make a nice little wooden candelabra type of lamp, and next project, please. But no. This is pretty awesome. Candelabra schmandelabra. How about a wizard versus dragon battle plasma lamp? All the stuff's going to be going on. And we're going to be adding the orange flickering LEDs to the castle because or the wizard tower, because it is going to be catching on fire in certain portions, the poor thing. But let's looking around here. I'm just trying to see if there's any areas I can reach, like see in there, like that looks like it's reachable, but it, trust me, it's not. I broke things trying to get here because this is the oldest clay. It is so hard that, you know, you do have to use some force to sculpt it. And so we may just have to use paint on that. But look, you can't even really see it. So I'm not too worried about that. And, you know, all this wing detail here is very visible. And I think it'll be fine. Worst case scenario, we have our air dry clay. And Dave is saying, best dragon plasma ball lamp ever. I think so. It may, in fact, be the only plasma. Although, no, we saw one on Amazon. It was a dragon plasma ball lamp, but there was no wizard. See, we're adding a wizard. We're plus one-ing people. Yeah. We're adding the wizard, so there. I'm tempting fate, aren't I? I just can't not do it, right, people? And then, oops. can probably do a little ball here and then fade it out so we don't hit the muscles. Kind of fade it